Well, you got your bucket list, your grocery list, your list of things to do. You got a list of all your wishes, that's a wish list, dude. You got your Amazon and Santa Claus and Tooth Fairy too. But I know a list that don't exist, and buddy, so do you. It's the Epstein list, it's a mystery list with a twist. It's a myth of a list that we all just miss. Be an optimist, not a pessimist. If you wish to persist, you probably ought to forget that list. What were we talking about? I don't remember, but I can sleep a lot better at night. Yeah, life can just go along, knowing there's 10,000 hours of sunshine and flowers and nobody doing a damn thing wrong. Hear no, see no, damn Bonji, no cash Patel. Well, I wouldn't wanna be a sweating man with bulging eyes. Now tell me them fellas ain't compromised. Any implicated dude will tell you anybody on the big list knows just how far the folks in charge will go to keep the status quo. So when the war bell rings, the song that they'll sing is a song that we well know. Ow, ow, so it's off to war I go. Well, they said they's gonna fix it, but now they're all complicit. They owe, they owe, they owe, they owe, they owe. So it's off to war we go. We'll send the poor off to war, what else are we for? They owe, they owe, they owe, they owe.
Welcome to ViperTV Live. How's it going out there in Radio Land? Good to see ya. I love Jesse Wells. I'm pretty sure he's like the Bob Dylan of our time. We're very lucky to have that dude. He is an absolute treasure. Today on ViperTV, we're going to do something a little different than we normally do. I am going to play Red Dead Redemption 2, and we're going to play until we burn down a slave mansion. That's right, we're going to burn down a plantation today. It's going to be a great time. But however, while we do that, the House Democrats are holding a briefing as they push to vote on the Epstein files. Let's see what it is that they got to say while we get on with the business. You're listening to WVPR and watching ViperTV Live.
On the Affordable Care Act, health insurance will go up by as much as 75%. And these price hikes don't even include the tax credits that Republicans are going to let expire. So even more Americans are going to see higher costs and could lose their health care coverage. Democrats have been warning about the dangers of the Republican cuts to Medicaid leading to higher prices for everyone. The American people were told that Donald Trump and Republicans were going to turn the economy around and prioritize families. But that couldn't be further from the truth. They've spent the last 6 months putting more money in billionaires' pockets and cutting health care. But they did make private jets tax deductible. So there's that. They're even shielding Jeffrey Epstein and his associates, including the President of the United States, from accountability, despite promising for years to release the files that implicate those involved. At a time when family budgets are stretched thin, Republicans are only prioritizing the needs of billionaires. It's not just bad policy that will make the economy worse. It's a slap in the face to working people who voted to bring down costs. Now introduce Vice Chair Ted Lieu.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. This morning, I went on this interesting website called HouseRepublicanPriceHikes.com. And if you go on that website, you can see the increases in grocery prices starting from the beginning of this year. Beef prices, for example, are at an all-time high. Donald Trump promised that he was going to lower inflation on day one. He lied. Inflation has continuously increased. The most recent report has inflation increasing above expectations to 2.7%. Core CPI increased even more to 2.9%. And what are congressional Republicans doing? Nothing. In fact, it's even worse than that. They are actually ending this week early because they're afraid to cast votes on the Jeffrey Epstein issue. The Rules Committee is not meeting because they're afraid to cast votes to release the Epstein files. So you've got this Epstein issue affecting congressional operations and making sure that the congressional Republicans don't work on trying to lower costs. So this is an epic cover-up. right? This is a cover-up of epic proportions where you've got the majority party literally having us leave Congress early and not having the Rules Committee meet because they don't want to deal with releasing the Epstein files. We should release the Epstein files. It is what Donald Trump campaigned on. It's what Attorney General Pam Bondi talked about this February when she said the Epstein client list was, quote, sitting on her desk right now. Why don't we have that client list? And these are the questions the American people keep asking, and the story is not going to go away because at core, this is an issue about underage women who were sexually abused and assaulted.
No,
Attorney
they
General
were
Pam
children.
Bondi should not be
They're
protecting
survivors and they're
Epstein's legacy,
children.
nor his clients, nor should congressional Republicans be doing the same. With that, it is my honor to introduce our amazing field general for the DCCC, Congresswoman Susan Del Bene. She's done a fantastic job, and she's going to discuss what we talked about this morning.
Thanks, Vice Chair Liu and Chairman Aguilar. Good morning, everyone. This morning in caucus, we presented how we're holding House Republicans accountable for their disastrous agenda and our path to retake the majority. We hear over and over and over again from people back home that the top issue for them is affordability and lowering costs for everyday goods. By all accounts, Republicans have failed miserably in the time that they've had the trifecta. Prices are still rising, whether it's housing, health insurance premiums, or everyday things like food and groceries. Republicans broke their promise to lower costs. Their big, ugly law is just another broken promise. It rips coverage away from millions of people and will raise health care bills for everyone, regardless of what kind of insurance that they have. And it takes food off the table from hungry families and children. It guts funding for rural hospitals and increases ER wait times. Energy bills will go up for families across the country. Republicans did all of this to pay for tax breaks for the wealthiest few. Their agenda is cruel, it's extreme, and an absolute disaster. And the American people agree. In poll after poll, we see that the Republicans' bill is massively unpopular. The more people learn about it, the more they oppose it. The one lie Republicans keep telling themselves is that voters won't punish them in the midterms because the American people won't feel the pain of the cuts until after the election. Aside from the fact that this is exactly the kind of insincere political gamesmanship the public hates, it's also not true. In a matter of months, millions of people will see their health insurance costs go up by an average of 75%. Rural hospitals are already announcing they'll close down and cut services. So no matter how many legislative games that Republicans try to play, there's no hiding from the facts. The big, ugly law will devastate and have devastating consequences that will absolutely be felt by working families. Republicans are poised to lose the majority next year, and they know it. You can tell by the way they're behaving. They avoid in-person town halls because they're afraid to face the public when they have to talk about their big ugly bill. House Republicans are headed for the exits. We already have 3 vulnerable Republicans decide to retire or not run for re-election because they know they're not going to take the majority. And we know there are more with one foot out the door who may soon announce that they won't seek re-election. So in these last 6 months, Republicans have broken promise after promise, feeding into a larger narrative that reminds everyone that they don't work for the American people. They work for the elite, the powerful, and the billionaires. It's a theme we hear on the ground day after day. And if House Republicans would take the time to listen to their constituents back home, instead of only working and waiting for Donald Trump to tell them what to do, they would know. But instead, they blindly follow his orders.
Yep.
They're hurting our economy and hitting the American families in their pocketbooks. And that's why they'll lose the majority. House Democrats will hold every single vulnerable Republican accountable for their betrayal against their communities when they supported the big, ugly bill. We have the better message, we have stronger candidates, and public sentiment is on our side. And next year, we'll have the gavels. Thank you, and I'll turn it back to Chairman.
Thank you, Chair Del Bene. Questions?
What are the main questions? What are the main questions that you have?
I'm not on the House Oversight Committee. I won't be. Yeah, I won't be in those meetings. But let me tell you our position. Donald Trump and House Republicans want to protect the rich and the powerful. It's the basis of their one big ugly bill, and it continues to be the theme when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein. House Democrats want the truth to come out. We're going to continue to support those efforts. Donald Trump and his son and his closest friends spent years fanning the flame of this theory, and now we're holding them accountable. Do they want to protect the rich and the powerful, or do they want the truth? Those are the questions that the Oversight Committee hopefully will get to the bottom of. Nick?
Redistricting, I mean, for implementing, how much harder will it be for Democrats to if Republicans go ahead with redistricting in Texas, and then for that matter, do you want blue states to go ahead with
You know, Republicans are running scared, and it's pretty clear that they know they can't win on their message with voters. They're not listening to them, so they're trying to rig the system, and they're going to try. They've brought this issue up in Texas. They shouldn't do it. They should be careful what they ask for, because they will make Republicans more vulnerable too, and we will compete in every single one of those districts. So
I hope we
Republicans will lose
gerrymander
their
the
job if
ever-living
this is the
shit
path
out of
that they go
everything.
down. And the American people are against it. They want to make sure that
The only reason shit wasn't gerrymandered
That,
beforehand is because we
it's
tried to be
not politicians
decent.
trying
See
to
what
pick
that
their
got
voters,
us?
But voters actually get to pick their representatives.
Let me add a California piece. I'll turn it over to the vice chair as well for his thoughts. It's our belief that we can't fight with one hand behind our backs.
Damn
House
right.
Republicans passed this one big ugly bill that kicked 17 million people off of health insurance 2 weeks ago. And the first thing that they do after the celebratory high fives at the White House is push forward redistricting efforts to hold on to power. It doesn't sound like a group that's very confident in the policy that they passed, so they want to rig the system. There should be a response. We can't let Texas go unanswered, and it's our belief that we should do whatever we can to protect democracy. We shouldn't stand on the sidelines while Republicans unwind districts in order to consolidate power to give Donald Trump even more ability to threaten our democracy and set aside the rule of law.
In 2018, Democrats flipped the House by 40 seats. One reason it was such a big number is because Republicans thought they were smart when they did gerrymander redistricting and made a bunch of Republican districts that were sort of Republican, and they thought they could win. Well, they lost them all in that wave. So Atlas Intel, one of the most accurate pollsters last term, came out with a new poll showing Democrats ahead +10 on the generic congressional ballot. So I dare Republicans in Texas and Ohio to do redistricting. I dare you to take incumbent Republicans
Ted
right
Lieu.
now and make their seats less safe, because we're going to flip them.
It's a pretty broken problem. It's a pretty broken system right now, the appropriations process. I'm not going to lie. This is a place where, and I think Kevin McCarthy, kind of started to break this process. When
Yeah, he
put,
did.
Freedom Caucus members on the committee. He did that to try to become
Jim
speaker.
Jordan, fucking people, legislative terrorists,
And
they've
we're
been
suffering from
called.
that consequence now. The committee's always been a place where reasonable people come together, disagree, and then try to find some common ground and use the appropriations and budgeting process to find common ground to meet the needs of our constituents. We're struggling with that right now, and in the room you see that. Rosa DeLauro is an amazing leader. Tom Cole has a lot of respect. But when you continue to give power to Donald Trump and Russ Vought, who says the appropriations process should be less bipartisan, you're really lifting up some pretty dangerous actions and rhetoric, and we're seeing that. So it isn't just about the rescissions bill, it's about do we have a process or not? Do we trust that the executive is going to spend the money that we allocate? Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7, no money, but in consequence of appropriations. Like, do we stand behind that or not? And I think that's a question for our Republicans colleagues that they're going to have.
OZZY just died. Rest in peace to the Prince of Darkness.
Feel a little differently than they have.
Your final concert was a thing of beauty, and thank you for giving us all that you gave us.
Look, I'll take the first try at that, and then I'll let Chair Del Bene. We need to do everything we can.
OZZY told us it was okay to be weird.
Every single member, every way, every possible opportunity we can to help the team. That's what this needs to be about. And I would even argue some of this redistricting, discussion needs to be in that frame too. I understand that people serve different
even 3 days
communities,
goes by where I don't listen to OZZY.
If we have an opportunity,
It's sad that he
to
passed,
push
but
back
he's at that
against some
age. We all knew it was
dangerous behavior
coming.
that Texas is doing, we should do it.
He left a
With
legacy,
the single
so it's
focus
quite
of
all right with
making
me.
Jeffrey Speaker and protecting democracy and restoring some sanity back to this place. So every member should be giving dues, helping out, helping a colleague, doing town halls in other districts, filling the need that exists to drive our message and to communicate that we stand for rural hospitals, we stand for people getting health care. We stand for affordable living and an opportunity to make a living and realize the American dream. Those are things that we stand for as a party, and that we need to focus every member's attention on that.
Just to add that, public sentiment is with us. I've been across the country talking to folks. Folks are outraged and scared, frankly, about what's happened under this administration, and Republicans who have just let it all happen. But they rewarded their biggest donors with a big bill to tax breaks for the wealthiest and the well-connected, and they saw a benefit from that. But we have grassroots support across the country, it's strong. And when we have great candidates who are talking about the issues that matter on the ground, issues like lowering costs, making sure that people have health care, these are the issues that matter to folks in our districts, and that's absolutely, people are with us, and that's absolutely why we'll take back the majority.
Just looking at the rooms before I torch this
Vice Chair
place.
Liu, has been talking about this for a lot of years, so I'll let him speak. But this comes down to what are Republicans afraid of? What's in these documents that they're afraid of, and why won't
What
they
are they
call
afraid
for,
of?
the release of them? Jeffrey Epstein was prosecuted under the Department of Justice under Donald Trump. Then he leaves the White House, and his closest friends spend 4 years amplifying theories about the case. Put up or shut up. Follow through or don't follow through. But the American people want the truth to come out, and Democrats are the ones leading the charge.
That's right.
During the Biden administration, I talked about the Epstein files, and I noted that Trump was all over the Epstein files that were already released. There's multiple pictures of Trump and Jeffrey Epstein.
Ted Lieu needs to be
Videos.
Attorney General.
There are bizarre quotes from Trump about Epstein. There are plane logs of Trump on Epstein's plane, and now we know there's this creepy birthday card. And guess what? I'm right and he was wrong, because, again, Trump is all over the Epstein files. Let me just say again what I just said. There are multiple pictures of Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, right? There are multiple videos of Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Trump is on Jeffrey Epstein's plane logs. There are weird quotes from Trump about Epstein. There are court pleadings with Trump named. And now we know there's this creepy birthday card Trump wrote to Jeffrey Epstein on his 50th
Yeah,
birthday.
shit is creepy.
So I am right. That fact checker was wrong. And why do you think we have this entire explosion now about Epstein? Because Attorney General Pam Bondi, here's the difference, went on national TV and told the American people that Jeffrey Epstein's client list was, quote, sitting on my desk right now. Where's that client list? Why doesn't she release it?
Can't take down the props. Go ahead. I understand a son's love for their father. Those two have a very close relationship, so I understand the sentiment behind it. I've never met Hunter Biden. He's not a colleague. He didn't vote to cut 17 million people's health care. That's what we're focused on, so I'm not really going to get into back and forth on Hunter Biden. We're focused on the issues of the day. I understand the sentiment around what he's saying. But people are going to get kicked off of healthcare.
Burn, baby, burn.
Republicans have taken here. That's the most important thing. I've said before in the past that 100 days isn't enough to run a presidential campaign. I've been clear on that. Things could have been different, but we're moving forward and we're trying to protect healthcare here. This is a deeply unpopular bill. We know that already. We need to continue to hammer that message. And as the American people see more information about the bill, it becomes less popular. So I understand what you're talking about. Some of the provisions going after Medicaid don't take into effect until late next year and early 2017. But guess what? Health insurance premiums are going up. Companies are making decisions because they know there's going to be less revenue as a result of $1 trillion cuts to Medicaid, the largest Medicaid cut in history of this country. So healthcare premiums will rise. That will happen early. Insurers will make these decisions as well. And hospitals are going to have to face difficult decisions on what their future looks like. Rural hospitals and clinics between now and next November are going to have to make some tough decisions. And they should be clear and honest with their constituents and the public as to why they're in this position. It's because House Republicans cut $1 trillion out of Medicaid. And so the task has always been, hard. The task has always been about what represents what's best for the American people. But this is something we know is deeply unpopular. People love and respect Medicaid and Medicare, and these are programs that face cuts under Donald Trump and House Republicans.
I was just going to say the premium proposals out there right now, healthcare costs go up to 75%. I said in my opening remarks. So people are looking, this would take place next year. People are feeling the impacts already. And so this isn't about everything being delayed. It's about costs going up for people right now.
Next question. Back. Go ahead. Yep. Well, one of the lessons we learned wasn't just in the spring, but this kind of started in December, right? When we had a bipartisan CR that the speaker put out and then backed away from because he got scared by Elon Musk. That really, kind of startled all of us. When you, in our world, when you release a CR, when you post it and put it up in public, it's a deal and you support it. So for the speaker to back away from that continued, and obviously it became a smaller CR in March. But I think it did set the course for some of the dysfunction and craziness that we've seen here under this dome. From our perspective, look, we are united against these terrible cuts. House Republicans are looking to cut programs that everyday Americans rely on, looking to cut the Department of Education. I'm heading over to the appropriations bill where they're going to continue to cut our park system and introduce more pesticides and make it easier for corporate polluters to get by. Those are the things that House Republicans stand for. So I think it's pretty easy for us as we weigh our decisions here on how we proceed. The burden is on Republicans. Ask them what their plan is to get a majority vote. Right now, House Republicans and Senate Republicans aren't even on the same page. Get them to let you know what the funding levels are and what their path to a reasonable appropriations process looks like, because they're clearly listening to Russ Spot and not working in a bipartisan way as we have in the past. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, it looks like they covered everything that they needed to cover. Like, if I was to be like, okay, well, I need to give you all notes, I can't say there's anything they missed. I think they could probably talk more about Palantir. But, yeah, I mean, they're fighting way more than I thought they would, but they've been given a lot of ammunition, so that does us a lot of favors. You're watching ViperTV live. Stick around.
He said it over and over for years.
Can you guarantee that Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security will not be touched?
Yeah, I mean, I have said it so many times, you shouldn't be asking me that question. Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched.
Nothing.
We're going to love and cherish Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We're not going to do anything with that.
His biggest MAGA supporters said no cuts to Medicaid.
It is wrong to cut health care for the working poor.
There's a lot of MAGAs on Medicaid. I'm telling you, if you don't think so, you are dead wrong.
The effect of this bill is to break a promise.
Trump lied.
The Medicaid cuts could cause nearly 12 million people to lose their health insurance.
With this mega bill set to enact the largest cuts to Medicaid in decades, experts are warning that many struggling hospitals in rural communities could close their doors.
But they're not cutting it. They're looking at fraud, waste, and abuse.
He thinks you're stupid and he can fool you. He doesn't care about your health insurance. All he wanted was your vote. Donald Trump. It's just not working.
Yeah, promises made, promises kept, my ass. That's okay. It's showing up more and more that we know that they're lying, so... I suppose with that being said, we burnt down our plantation. We did some fact checking. We are holding them to account the way they need to be held to account. I suppose it's time for only one thing we can do. It's time for Twisted History.
It is not heresy, and I will not recant.
All right, what do we got going on today? Well, today we're going to talk about the murderous body snatchers of Burke and Hare. Now, if you've never heard of Burke and Hare before, this is a wonderful time for you to tune in, because this is a very strange bit of history that I only recently learned about, and that there is actually a technique called burking. Let's dive on into it.
It's Ollie from History Profiles, and today I will be taking you to 19th century Edinburgh, where the subject of anatomy was still being studied in order for doctors to understand how to perform surgery and learn even more about the human body. But back in the 19th century, in order for a doctor to become skilled at the art of surgery and knowledgeable in anatomy, they would need a supply of corpses in order to practice on. However, where throughout history dead bodies were common due to people being executed, this was no longer the case, as in 1823, the Judgment of Death Act saw the numbers of crimes punishable by death in Scotland drop significantly. This would lead to an extreme shortage of dead bodies available. Scottish law at the time deemed that suitable corpses that could be used for the purpose of study were only people who had died in prison, suicide victims, and the bodies of orphans. As the supply of bodies became extremely rare, doctors were literally waiting for people to die. This increased the demand, and grave robbers and body snatchers would take this opportunity to begin trading corpses. Now, the two important men in this story were named William Burke and William Hare. Burke was born in 1792 in Ireland. He had a comfortable upbringing, coming from a middle-class family, and he joined the British Army as a young man. He met a woman and married her and would settle in County Mayo in Ireland, but the marriage wouldn't last long, and he abandoned his wife and moved to Scotland to become a labourer. He eventually settled in Edinburgh and met a new woman named Helen MacDougall. Burke would eventually become a cobbler, and he was pretty good at it, earning a decent and honest living. His partner in crime was William Hare, and his early life isn't recorded, and his age and date of birth are unknown. It is said that he moved to Edinburgh in the mid-1820s, where he would work as a coalman's assistant. He resided at Tanner's Close, and after the landlord died, he began a relationship with his widow, named Margaret Laird. He now would permanently reside at Tanner's Close. Hare was described as illiterate and uncouth, lean and quarrelsome, and a violent man with scars from old wounds all over his face. Hare and Burke would meet in 1827 when they both went to work on the harvest. The men would become fierce friends, and when they both returned to Edinburgh, they moved into Hare's Tanner's Close lodging house, where they would get a reputation around the neighbourhood for long drinking sessions and loud, rowdy behaviour.
I was just thinking earlier, what a crazy phrase. The short supply of dead bodies due to the fact that there was no war. What a crazy... that actually just recently, it just poured into my head. I was like, whoa. That is a crazy ass sentence.
Now,
Summer Sale bei Möbel Martin. Entdecken Sie jetzt tausende Artikel zum Schnäppchenpreis.
would look for a... Oh,
sorry about that. I have my other account
this is how
up.
Hare and Burke would discover a gap in the market for corpses. On the 29th of November 1827, a man named Donald would die while lodging at Tanner's Close, but he still owed £4 worth of rent. The pair took the corpse to Edinburgh University, where they would look for a buyer. Students would point them to an anatomy lecturer named Dr. Knox, who paid £7 and 10 shillings for Donald's body. Hare and Burke now saw how lucrative the corpse market was, and they would take advantage of it. This was further proved, as once the transaction was done, one of Dr. Knox's assistants told them, "We would be glad to see you again when you have another body to dispose of." Shortly after their first sale, one of the pair's tenants would become ill. Hare and Burke would
Okay, the three of them right there, that is some unsavory shit. Like, the doctor's like, come back when you have bodies to sell me, and then the other two are like, we need to get bodies. Like, all three of them are just like already just participating in extremely low down shenanigans.
jump on this opportunity and got the man, who was called Joseph, extremely drunk on whiskey. They couldn't help themselves and wait to see if Joseph would die, so they restrained him and smothered him with a pillow to cut off his airways. This particular way of murder would ensure that the body had no markings and was perfect for sale. The practice would become known as Burking. The pair again took the body straight to Dr. Knox, who this time paid £10. Their next victim...
how big a shitbag do you have to be to have an actual murder act named after you because you've done it so many times? Like, there's hanging, there's garrote. Like, there was no Mr. Garrote. There was no, there was no Mr. Guillotine, although I'm sure that there's somebody who could probably, like, run for that title, like Maximilian Robespierre or somebody.
Was an unnamed Englishman who was a travelling seller of matches and tinder. He too would fall ill at Hare's lodging house. Hare was concerned that the illness of the unnamed man may have an effect on the business of the lodging house, so they decided to deal with the man swiftly. They crept up into his room, and Burke would put all of his body weight on the victim, stopping him from moving, while Hare would crushingly suffocate the victim until their last breath. Following this, the pair would meet a woman who was a pensioner that lived in a nearby village of Gilmerton. She would regularly visit Edinburgh to sell salt. She was invited back to the inn, and Hare and Burke and the pensioner would start drinking heavily. The pair ensured the pensioner was too drunk to return home, and after tucking her into bed, they killed her. Again, Hare and Burke went to Dr. Knox, and he gave them £10 of body. Apparently, Dr. Knox approved of the freshness of the bodies, and Hare and Burke would become his favourite suppliers, as the bodies were always fresh and unspoiled. Burke and Hare would prey on the most vulnerable people in society, who were likely to not be recognised or missed by anyone. It is said that the pair murdered at least 16 people, and then sold the bodies for £7 to £10, although the real number of people they killed is likely to be higher. Burke would later meet two women in early April called Mary Patterson and Janet Brown. He would buy the women drinks and would invite them to his lodging for breakfast and a place to stay. Burke's wife would find him and the women drunk and accused Burke of having an affair. An argument then broke out, and Burke threw a glass at his wife, cutting her across the eye, while Janet Brown said she didn't know he was married and left the inn. However, Mary Patterson was still in the inn, and they murdered her while she was sleeping. Again, they took the corpse to Dr. Knox, who paid £8 for the body, which was still apparently warm when they sold it. One of Dr. Knox's assistants, named Ferguson, thought he recognised the dead woman. He asked Burke and Hare where they obtained the body.
Yeah, that right there on itself is completely sus. The idea that they're actually bringing you a warm body. Like, okay. I know y'all. I said that I would pay you for what it is that you do, and we said that there would kind of, be some hush hush business here and there, but y'all can't be bringing me like fresh fucking corpses. Somebody's gonna be asking questions. Like I said, everybody involved in this entire little scheme is just awful, awful people.
And Burke said that the girl had drank herself to death, and they got the body from an old woman. Dr. Knox, not caring about morality, was absolutely delighted with the corpse, simply caring about his studies and putting aside his ethics in search for knowledge. When Janet Brown later went looking for her friend, she was told she had left for Glasgow with a travelling salesman. The pair's greed was becoming uncontrollable.
Now the question really is unorthodox and as vile as this trade is it just me, or was there possibly actual real medical advances that were possible because of this kind of felonious behavior? Is there any good to this situation? That's a strange question to ask yourself. for the most part, how about we fucking leave the dead alone, okay? Or how about we don't murder people for money? That's even a better idea.
But with greed came carelessness, and it was only a matter of time until Burke and Hare were discovered. Their last victim was killed on October the 31st, 1828, and her name was Margaret Docherty. She was a middle-aged Irish woman who Burke had lured into the inn by claiming his mother was also a Docherty, and with his charm, the pair began drinking and talking. Burke left the inn, telling Margaret he was getting more whiskey, but he was actually going to get his friend Hare, as he had to kill this woman. 2 lodgers, however, were already at the inn. They were named Anne and James Gray, and Burke and Hare paid them to stay at Hare's lodging that night, saying that Margaret Docherty was family. Burke, Hare and Margaret continued drinking, and by the end of the night, Margaret had been murdered with the usual method, and her body was put by a pile of straw at the end of a bed. The very next day, Anne and James Gray returned, and the pair became suspicious when Burke did not let them go near the bed where Anne had left her stockings. When the pair realised they were alone in the inn, they searched the straw and found Margaret's body. They then quickly went to alert the police, but they ran into Burke's wife, Helen McDougall, who tried to bribe them with £10 a week in order for them to keep their mouths shut, but they refused and reported the murder. Burke and Hare quickly sold Margaret's body, but the police searched the inn swiftly and found blood-stained clothes and brought Burke and Hare in for questioning. The police also went to Dr. Knox's dissecting room, where they found Margaret, who was then identified by Anne and James Gray.
Is it just me, or does Dr. Knox's dissecting room sound like a killer band? Like they'd possibly been on Wax Trax.
Burke and Hare were subsequently charged with murder. Hare, however, was offered full immunity from prosecution if he provided details of the murder of Margaret. He would make a full confession to all the murders that he carried out, but when it came to the trial, Burke would plead not guilty, and Hare would give evidence saying that Burke was the sole murderer of Margaret Docherty. Burke was then found guilty of murder, and he was given the death sentence. As the death sentence was being passed, the judge said, "Your body should be publicly dissected and anatomized, and I trust that is it ever customary to preserve skeletons, yours will be preserved, in order that posterity may keep in remembrance your atrocious crimes." Hare, on the other hand, was held in custody for his own protection, and was released on the 5th of February 1829. Wherever he went, an angry mob would follow and would throw stones at any establishment he was at. His presence would create chaos in general, due to the public hating him. He later made his way to the English border, where there are no more...
Completely valid. And the idea that they would preserve his skeleton for all to see for all time, that's such like a European / Scottish like punishment. Like Americans are like, you know, we'll shoot you, hang you, we'll use the electric chair. But the idea of being like, no, we're going to like set an example for everybody, using you forever. It's creative.
Recorded sightings of him, and where he disappears from history. As for Dr. Knox, he left Edinburgh due to public outrage and would begin to lecture in Britain and Europe, trying to salvage his career. Margaret Hare, the wife of William Hare, fled to Ireland, and Burke's woman, Helen McDougall, started a completely new life in Australia. When you turn a blind eye to evil due to the search for knowledge, do you too deserve to be punished? Do you think that Dr. Knox and Margaret Hare and Helen McDougall should be found guilty as well due to their knowledge of all crimes? Let me know in the comments section down below. and I'll see you all next week for another.
Yep. Man, so I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, they should be punished. If they knew that was what was going on and they were being silent about it because either they were getting money out of it or they just didn't want to be implicated, hell yeah, they should be punished. You're watching ViperTV. Stick around.
Go to skipfranzjr.net for podcasts.
Record player that, I could just spin records all the time.
I run into the bathroom and I'm covered in blood. Like I had put my tooth through my bottom lip.
For music? For gaming and pro-liberty game rants? That's skipfranzjr.net.
Unfortunately, the Prince of Darkness has passed on to the next realm. Rest in peace, OZZY. Thank you for everything that you gave us. From Black Sabbath all the way to your solo stuff. The musicians that you introduced to this world and the inspiration that you gave so much of us. We can never thank you enough. Since, I suppose now would be an appropriate time, I'm going to share one of my favorite stories with you. This is a clip from when Henry Rollins met Ozzy Osbourne. Rest in peace, Ozzy.
When I was 15 and heard the song Iron Man, my life changed. And when I heard that voice, and when I heard these songs of alienation and this crushing guitar power, that was my shit. And I've been into Ozzy Osbourne ever since. I got all the Sabbath records, all the Ozzy records, all the bootlegs. Greatest rhythm section in rock and roll is Bill Ward and Geezer Butler. If I ever saw those guys, I'd be all over the place. So anyway.
Geezer Butler is one of the reasons that I can play like just regular bass. I have my upright bass influences, but as far as regular bass influences goes, it's Geezer Butler all day long. Sabbath, they really, really, really set the tone for a lot of bands. And there's so much that Ozzy and Lemmy together gave us. And it's great that they're reunited. Well, we know that we're at the age where we're going to see all of our rock star heroes go, but it's what they left us that was really important. Yeah.
Imagine my elation several weeks ago, slaving away at band practice, and we get a phone call from management, and manager says, "Hey, you want to play some shows with Ozzy? Let's see. Duh, what do you think?" So I go, "We are there." Click. How many nights have I put OZZY on my knuckles with a Sharpie? God, if I had a nickel for every single night. It is the awesome thing to do when you play festivals and you have to do all this press. Like, Henry, so do you like to play the festivals? Yes, I do. And weeks later, boom, we're in Florida, awaiting our first gig at the Enormo Dome with the Ozman. And we're sitting in our dressing room, which is a locker. And I'm thinking, God, maybe we'll get to smell Ozzy. Maybe I'll get to touch him, or maybe I'll get a glimpse of him as he goes to the stage. No way I'd ever get to meet him, of course. But maybe I'll just get to smell his hair care products as he gets golf carted to the stage. Door opens up. Ozzy walks in, no shirt and a cigar. "Hello, my name is Ozzy Osbourne. Can I hang out with you guys for a while?" I run over to the couch, start pulling everyone's backpacks off the couch, Sit. Please. He sits down. Hey, man. I'm fucking honored you come on tour with us, man. You guys fucking rock out, man. Fucking honored to have you on tour. Fucking God bless you, man. If there's anything you need, man, tell me or my wife and we'll get it for you. Anything you need to be happy, man. We want you to have a fucking great time. We're so happy you're out with us. Was the stage okay? Are the lights okay? Is the PA okay? Anything you want changed, man, we'll do it for you. He's like this totally cool, down-to-earth kind of guy you'd meet in a bar. Doesn't really know where he is. You know, he's just like, rock and roll. And he's just super sincere and super cool. He's exactly how I'd hoped he would be. And I'm checking out all his tattoos. I'm like, oh, whoa, there it is. OZZY, awesome. And so we go out that night and we play. And the crowd, which I figure is gonna like tear the seats out and like beat us to death with them. And we go out there and we do our, you know, kind of off-time thing. And we get, which means like, you know, rock power. And so we finish, I go, all right, thanks, good night. Ozzy Osbourne's coming up next. And we go off stage. 40 minutes later, changeover. Ozzy hits stage. The roof is flapping. And you realize at that moment that is 12,000 people going like, I think I dropped a joint on the floor. Excuse me, do you know where the men's room is around here? Oh, is there a band playing? Times 12,000 is... So I realized they didn't even know that we played. Ozzy goes out on stage and does basically what he's done for like the last 25 years. It's like...
The Ozzy clap. The Ozzy clap is the most legendary thing in the world. But I just love that Ozzy was like, I didn't know how to play any instruments, but I knew how to be a fucking maniac, and it just worked out for me.
Let's go crazy! People in the crowd go positively batshit. They're holding up their lighters like with At our gigs, when someone holds up a lighter, it means we've been jamming too long. It's like, free bird, pal. You're losing it. See the lighter? But this is like, you know, and the people love this guy. Brings people up on stage, puts his arms around them, they headbang together. It's awesome. And he plays his ass off. And I meet his wife, Sharon, who's also his manager. She's really cool. And she says, Henry, Rip Magazine wants to know if you want to interview Ozzy for the magazine. I'm like, interview Ozzy? Oh, yes. Tomorrow night, when the gig is done, you're going to come with me and Ozzy and the family. We're going to go to the airport.
If you had the chance to interview Ozzy, what questions could you possibly ask him that he hasn't been asked a million times? That's a good question for the chat. What question would you ask Ozzy if you could only ask him one question before his untimely passing? Well, not untimely. We knew it was coming.
We're going to fly to this island that we're staying at called Amelia Island off the coast of Florida. You're going to get up in the morning, interview Ozzy, and then we have a limousine that's going to take you to your club date. Like, okay, so what, there's like a red eye that goes to Amelia Island? No, this is our private jet. Let me get this straight. I'm going to fly on a private jet with Ozzy Osbourne. She goes, yes. She can see it coming. Yet, you know, male fantasy number 5,000. You know, she goes, oh my God, he's a fanboy. So I'm saying, like, you know. And so the next night, we do our set. Ozzy does his set. After the show, me and Ozzy and Sharon and his kids get in the van and we go to the private airport. And we pull up and there's all these fanboys waiting at the gate holding their Ozzy records. I'm sitting in the passenger seat up front. They don't recognize me. They think I'm his bodyguard. They come up to the van, I look at them like, they're like, can we get our stuff signed by Ozzy? Like, hold on, let me ask. Yeah, I'm like just playing it. Ozzy, you want to sign some stuff? Yeah, man, whatever, man. You know, cool. You know, he's really nice. Comes out, you know, he comes out of the van, people are like, whoa. He signs their stuff, like, what's your name, man? David. To David, big, you know, writing rock on Ozzy Osbourne, all these, you know, on their like 90-year-old vinyl record. Gives it back. You know, these guys always have their silver or gold ink pens. And he signs up all their stuff, shakes their hands, and I kind of like move towards them. They're all like, I go, that's enough. We have to go get the plane now. And they're like, oh, right, cool. Well, to tell Mr. Osborne, we're really honored to meet him. Like, he's standing right there. You know, it has to come through me. I'm like, tell him. You know, like, Ozzy, man, you rule. Like, okay. And so, but at the same time, I'm going, God, I wish I had one of my Ozzy records here so he could sign mine too. Hey, kid, can I borrow that cool gold ink marker? So,
how much would that suck being a huge Ozzy fan and you know that you got the chance for him to like sign your records and because you're trying to, you know, be a professional musician, you don't get a chance to fanboy out. Oh, man. I'd have still took the opportunity to be like, you know, I'm only going to get this chance one time. I'll be right back. I'm knock this kid over and take his record. Oh man. And Ozzy would probably just start laughing. He'd probably say it was fucked up and tell you to give the kid back his record, but he'd laugh. I know it.
We go out onto the tarmac and there is the Gulfstream jet waiting with the Ozzy logo on the side. 2 uniformed pilots, black pants, white shirt, black tie, the gold epaulettes, the cap. I mean, they look like pro pilots. Standing there like, good evening, are you ready to go to Amelia Island? They're totally like, hey. And so we get on the plane and the assistant gives us each a Diet Pepsi. And Ozzy's sitting in a seat facing the cockpit, and I'm sitting in a seat facing him. And for the next hour, I'm sitting this far from Ozzy, drinking a Diet Pepsi while he tells me Black Sabbath stories. Yeah. 60 minutes, the whole time. I just could not believe it. Sitting across, he got the little shades on. It was so cool. I get to the Four Seasons Hotel. They give me the key to the room. I go into this hotel room. I have never been in a place like this in my life. The bed is like a football field. Like, yeah! Dive on it, jumping up and down. These big ass cookies on your bed, condoms in the drawer, like stuffing all this stuff into my shit. And so, you know, the next morning, I did the interview with him, and the limo came, and they, you know, took me across this like long bridge to the mainland, and they drove me like an hour to my club date, and the next day we caught back up with Ozzy, and it was the coolest, man. It was so cool, and it was total fanboy story. Just, and that now you know what I'm like.
Bless you, Ozzy. Thank you for all that you gave us. We can never, ever tell you just how much we really appreciate it. But like I said, he's back with Lemmy. And wherever they're at, just got a lot louder. So, you've been watching ViperTV. I'm going to leave you off with a little something because it's only appropriate It's been absolutely great getting to hang out with everybody as always. And man, crank it up loud for the Ozman. We love it, all of you. Laters. That's right.